Let me tell you, nobody moves to a mountain expecting war, but that's exactly what landed on my doorstep that winter. And honestly, sometimes I think the ridge knew before I did, because mountains never forget an insult. Here's the real story, not the HOA's version, not some viral tweet. Just how one man, one cabin, and a whole damn ridge stood up to a suburban empire with more bylaws than sense, and a plan so brazen they thought I'd never show up to stop it. You know how it starts, right? You spend 2 decades boxed in by glass offices and conference calls, burning out on caffeine and AI patent disputes, and finally you snap. You buy your own wild, lonely slice of Colorado. You build a place with your own hands. I called it the Ridge, legally Parcel 742C, but to me it was freedom, oxygen, a heartbeat I'd almost lost. I wasn't hiding, I was healing. Solar panels, a self-dug well, compost toilet, not a touch of luxury, but every board was mine. Every sunrise felt earned that I didn't even live there full time. Month here, month there. The world never cared before. But 2 months away, one stubborn contract back in California, one busted Land Cruiser, and an early snow. And suddenly my security system back home starts pinging, and I'm staring at my coffee like it's going to explain why the ridge went dark. Motion sensors, cameras, uplink, everything offline. That wasn't just a glitch. Someone had shut it all down. So yeah, maybe I overreacted, but would you have waited? I loaded up a rental Chevy, crammed it with protein bars and a Glock I barely remembered how to use, then barreled out of Durango with the kind of focus you only get when you know something precious is being taken right now, in real time, and you're the only person who can stop it. The road up was worse than usual. Halfway there, 2 pickups and a makeshift barricade, guarded by private security rocking HOA patches like they were Navy SEALs. Restricted recreational zone, they said. Members only. I just about choked. I'd owned this land since before their HOA was a glimmer in some lawyer's eye. I argued. Of course I did. But they had a name, Director Woods. Guy ran the HOA down the hill like a military op, retired logistics officer, reputation for steamrolling any neighbor who crossed him. My land, apparently, was next on his list. I knew enough not to start a fight right there, so I left. But you better believe I circled back that night, slipped up a fire road in a rattling Jeep, heart pounding the whole way, and saw it, floodlights, tents, families roasting marshmallows on my firewood, music blaring, my front door wide open. They were having a damn festival in my sanctuary. You ever sit in the dark, staring at your own home, and realize you're an outsider? That rage, it's a cold thing. I didn't sleep. I watched them all night, hand on my Glock, knowing I was one bad decision away from making the wrong kind of headline. At dawn, I slipped in through the back, found my cabin trashed, mud everywhere, hot sauce stains on my hand-sanded table, my grandfather's rifle gone, some kid's crayon masterpiece taped to my fridge, Aspen Creek Nature Cabin, and marshmallow goo fused to my solar control panel like some sugary stamp of conquest. But I'm nothing if not prepared. My backup drive still worked. I pulled surveillance footage, HOA trucks, guys cutting my gate, laughing, smashing my lock, moving in like they own the place. Days later, more campers arrived, strung fairy lights in my pines, tried to turn my shed into a wellness yurt. That's when I called the sheriff, filed a complaint, sent every bit of proof to my lawyer. And by the time the feds showed up, a U.S. Marshal with mirrored shades and a glare that could crack granite, I'd collected enough footage to fill a courtroom. Clearing the place was chaos. Campers screaming about communal intent, waving fake jurisdiction letters from Director Woods. One guy tried to argue his kids had bonded with the wildlife, like that made trespassing okay. The marshal shut it all down, threatened charges, made it very clear this was no misunderstanding. But HOA folks, they don't give up. Next thing I know, I'm in a Silverton law office, handing over everything to a bulldog of an attorney, only to find out the HOA had filed to reclassify my land as community use weeks earlier, using some obscure statute meant for abandoned lots. A county board member, Lakewood, signed off on it. Same guy who golfs with Woods. You see the pattern? It got dirtier. The HOA's maps already had my cabin labeled as Phase 1 Lodge. They were counting on me never coming back, hoping a paper trail would outlast me. My lawyer, Marcus, wasn't having it. Brought in Jane Rivers, ex-prosecutor with a vendetta for land fraud, and Sarah Chun, a journalist who'd taken down corporate land grabs before. The more they dug, the more rot we found. Internal documents, board meeting recordings, a whistleblower named Derek who hated what his HOA had become, all the receipts. Sarah went public, headlines everywhere. The HOA that tried to steal a mountain. It went viral, Reddit, YouTube, even the local news. That's when the threat started. Emails, phone calls, blurry photos of my cabin at night. Then came the settlement offers. $5,000, then 15, finally 25. Each time, I laughed. This wasn't about money. It was about principle. They slashed my tires, left notes on my truck, even tried to break in again, this time with a crew of 10, but my team was ready. Former Army recon buddies, trail cams, alarms, the works. Deputies showed up to find would-be trespassers tangled in tripwire, half of them still insisting nature belonged to everyone. The lawsuit hit: criminal trespass, property destruction, attempted administrative theft. The HOA doubled down, brought in a legal team from Denver, tried to bury us in paperwork, claimed I'd abandoned the cabin, that my presence wasn't continuous enough to count. We countered with surveillance logs, solar bills, witness testimony, every dirty trick exposed. The state launched an audit. County officials started resigning. National news picked it up. Congressmen called for HOA reform. And suddenly Parcel 742C became a symbol for everyone who'd ever been steamrolled by some overreaching board. Twist was, this wasn't just about a cabin anymore. Other landowners reached out. Turns out, Aspen Creek wasn't alone. HOAs all over the state were playing the same game, hoping silence and paperwork would win. When the judge finally ruled, one packed courtroom, every eye watching, she ordered Aspen Creek to pay $1.5 million in restitution, nullified every claim they'd filed, and barred them from ever touching my land again. My lawyer grinned. Jane popped champagne. I just sat there, letting it sink in. I'd won. Yeah, but it felt bigger than that. Alden Woods was gone. Expelled by his own board, he tried to show up one last time, walked my ridge in silence, looked around, said, "It's yours again." No apology, no fight left in him. I didn't reply. Some victories, you don't need to gloat. You just need to breathe. Weeks later, with my friends around a new fire pit built from the stones of that old barricade, I watched the sun set over the ridge and finally felt at peace. Not because a judge said I could, because I'd fought, because I'd shown up, because sometimes the mountain does fight back, and this time, it fought through me. So now it's your turn. You ever been pushed to the edge by someone with too much power and not enough conscience? Ever watch a community nearly eat itself over greed and pride? Tell me, where do you draw the line between defending what's yours and standing up for everyone else? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk justice. Let's talk community. Let's talk what it really means when a mountain pushes back.